What if I told you that the United States government, not a rogue agent, not a mad scientist, but the official, institutionally approved Central Intelligence Agency, ran a secret program for over 2 decades in which they gave LSD to unwitting Americans, to mental patients, to prisoners, to soldiers, to ordinary civilians who had no idea what was happening to them? A program that drove some of its subjects permanently insane, that killed at least one person that we know of, and possibly more. A program that was so illegal, so deeply unconstitutional, that when it was about to be exposed, the director of the CIA ordered every single document destroyed. Except they missed a box. And in that box, 20,000 files were waiting. This is the story of MKUltra, and every word of it is true. To understand MKUltra, you have to understand the paranoia of post-World War II America. It is 1950. The Soviet Union has the atomic bomb. China has just fallen to communism. North Korea has just invaded South Korea with Soviet weapons. The world, in the eyes of the American national security establishment, is on a knife's edge. And then the intelligence reports start coming in. American prisoners of war in Korea are confessing to crimes they didn't commit. Returning POWs are speaking positively about their captors. Chinese and Soviet interrogators seem to have developed techniques that can break a man's mind, overwrite his beliefs, rewrite his loyalties. The press starts using a new word for it: brainwashing. The CIA is terrified. If the enemy can control the human mind, if they can take an American soldier and turn him into a propaganda tool, or worse, a saboteur, then the Cold War is already lost. The nuclear bomb is useless against an enemy that can operate inside your own head. CIA Director Allen Dulles gives the order in April 1953. He calls it MKUltra, one word, all caps. Its official purpose? To research the use of biological and chemical materials in altering human behavior. Its actual purpose? To develop techniques to control the human mind, to create what the CIA called artichoke subjects, people whose beliefs and behaviors could be modified without their knowledge or consent.
Fact: MKUltra operated across 150 separate research programs, funded through dummy foundations and front organizations, conducted at 80 institutions, universities, hospitals, prisons, and mental asylums, many of which had no idea they were working for the CIA. The primary tool was LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, a synthetic hallucinogenic drug that had only been discovered in 1943. The CIA became obsessed with LSD because in early trials, it seemed to dissolve a person's sense of self, making them suggestible, confused, and easier to manipulate. They believed for a period that it might be the perfect interrogation drug. The first victims were easy targets, people who couldn't fight back, mental patients in institutions in New York and New Orleans, prisoners in the Lexington Narcotics Farm in Kentucky, patients at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada, where a CIA-funded psychiatrist named Dr. Ewan Cameron was conducting what he called psychic driving experiments, using LSD, drug-induced sleep lasting for weeks, and electroconvulsive therapy far beyond medically accepted levels to try to erase a patient's identity and reprogram them from scratch. The patients at Cameron's facility had come in for mild depression, anxiety, and other ordinary psychiatric issues. They left, if they left, with permanent memory loss, regression to childlike states, and conditions that destroyed their capacity to live independently. Some never recovered. Some were left incontinent, unable to speak, unable to recognize their own families.
Cameron called it de-patterning. The CIA called it research. The patients called it nothing, because by the time it was done, many of them couldn't remember their own names. But MKUltra didn't stop with the vulnerable. The CIA also dosed its own people. In a sub-program called Operation Midnight Climax, the agency set up safe houses in San Francisco and New York where prostitutes, paid by the CIA, lured men off the street. The men were given drinks laced with LSD, while CIA agents watched from behind one-way mirrors and took notes. The men had no idea. They were U.S. citizens. They were never told. They never received compensation. Fact. Operation Midnight Climax operated in San Francisco for nearly a decade, from 1955 to 1965. The CIA agent who ran it, George White, later wrote in a letter, "I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?" On November 19, 1953, a group of CIA scientists and their supervisors gathered for a 3-day retreat at a cabin in Deep Creek Lake, Maryland. On the second evening, one of the men present, Sidney Gottlieb, the head of MKUltra's chemical division, secretly spiked the after-dinner coin throw with LSD. One of the men who consumed it without his knowledge was Dr. Frank Olson.
a 43-year-old army biochemist, father of 3 children, working on biological weapons research that overlapped with the CIA's interests. Frank Olson had a bad trip. A very bad trip. He became deeply disturbed over the following days, withdrawn, paranoid, apparently suicidal.
9 days after being drugged, Frank Olson fell from the window of the 13th floor of the Hotel Statler in New York City. He died on impact. The CIA told his wife it was a suicide. They told his children nothing for 20 years. The true circumstances of his dosing, that he had been given LSD without his knowledge by his own colleagues, were kept secret for over 2 decades. In 1975, when MKUltra was partially exposed by congressional investigations, President Gerald Ford personally apologized to Frank Olson's family. The family received a $750,000 settlement from the government. But in 1994, Frank Olson's sons had their father's body exhumed. A forensic examination found injuries inconsistent with a fall, bruising around the skull, suggesting he had been struck before going through the window. The New York City medical examiner who reviewed the case changed his ruling from suicide to homicide. The case has never been prosecuted. Frank Olson's death remains officially unsolved. By the late 1960s, MKUltra was winding down. The experiments had not produced the controllable agents the CIA had dreamed of. LSD was too unpredictable. People didn't become pliable, they became terrified, psychotic, dangerous. The program had failed scientifically and was an ethical catastrophe. In 1973, as the Watergate scandal was consuming the Nixon administration and congressional oversight of intelligence agencies was becoming more aggressive, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra files. Shredding machines worked for days. Thousands of documents were destroyed.
But someone had misfiled approximately 20,000 documents. Financial records, invoices, purchase orders, correspondence, they were never destroyed. In 1977, following a Freedom of Information Act request by journalist John Marks, those files were found. The Senate convened the Church Committee hearings. For the first time, CIA officials sat before the American public and confirmed, yes, the program existed. Yes, American citizens were experimented on without their knowledge or consent. Yes, we destroyed the evidence. Fact: the Church Committee hearings in 1977 were a watershed moment in American history. They revealed not only MKUltra, but also CIA assassination plots against foreign leaders, illegal domestic surveillance, and a systematic pattern of deception of Congress and the public that had lasted decades. The American people were genuinely stunned. This was not a conspiracy theory. This was a Senate hearing. With witnesses, with documents, with official confirmation.
MKUltra officially ended in 1973. The experiments stopped, the files were destroyed, and the official version of the story says that was the end. But here is the question that researchers and historians have never stopped asking. Did the program truly end? Or did it simply become better at hiding? The desire to understand and influence human behavior didn't disappear. Psychological operations, PSYOPs, became an increasingly sophisticated tool of American foreign policy. Enhanced interrogation techniques used at Guantanamo after September 11, 2001 were documented to draw on research connected to MKUltra-era findings. Social media platforms today deploy algorithms specifically designed to maximize emotional engagement, to keep you feeling something, anything, because feeling is clicking, and clicking is revenue. The tools are digital now. The principle is the same. MKUltra was not carried out by villains in black capes. It was carried out by educated men with PhDs and security clearances and official budgets and signed authorization forms. It was carried out in hospitals and universities. It was signed off on by people who genuinely believed they were protecting their country. And that, more than any of the specific horrors, is the most important lesson. Power does not need to be malevolent to be dangerous. It only needs to believe itself justified. And belief, as the CIA spent 20 years trying to prove, is the most powerful thing in the human mind.